following that breaking news, in fact, we're going to listen into a press conference from LMPD Deputy Chief Emily McKinley about an officer-involved shootout.
Subject to change pending this investigation. At approximately 7:45 p.m. this evening, 8th Division Patrol officers responded to the 9800 block of Vieux Carré Drive on a report of a person experiencing a mental health or behavioral health crisis. Initial information indicated the individual had self-inflicted lacerations and was armed with a piece of glass or an edged weapon. Due to the presence of the weapon and the individual being inside of a location with other people, this situation did not meet the criteria for deflection or mobile crisis response. When officers arrived, they encountered a 28-year-old female who had locked herself inside of a bathroom. She was highly agitated, incoherent, and was making suicidal statements. Officers attempted to de-escalate this situation through verbal communication and requested additional officers responding to bring less lethal tools. The female continued to make agitated and suicidal statements from inside the bathroom. Members of the Anchorage Middletown Fire Department arrived on scene and assisted with forcing entry to the bathroom door. Upon the door being breached, the female rapidly exited and charged towards officers armed with a large, sharp object. At that point, 2 LMPD officers discharged their firearms. Officers immediately rendered aid to the female, and EMS transported her to University of Louisville Hospital, where she was pronounced deceased. The LMPD Public Integrity Unit is leading this investigation, and as is standard protocol, the involved officers will be placed on administrative leave, and their information will be available to the public within 24 to 72 hours. Also, in accordance with our policy, body-worn camera footage of this incident, which is on body-worn camera footage, will be released within 10 business days, and more details regarding this investigation will be provided at that time. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
Hearing there from Deputy Chief Emily McKinley on what is this deadly shooting investigation. We'll continue to update you on air and online as we're able to share more of this on wave3.com. We'll be right back with more Wave News at 11 after the break.